Americans, that they brought their ideas forward as very, very exciting ideas, and they were picked on much more than mine. So without changing my approach, I would have perceived as a kind of a stayer, as somebody who could not realize changes, which is not what you want. So I found this quite challenging, because when I listened to the ideas of the others, particularly Americans, I found those as completely unrealistic. So then if you make a click there, that is what I would see. If you could move the slide. Yeah, so nothing's moving. Okay, then I'll just continue. Yeah. So I found, yeah, there it is. I found it quite challenged because I found them completely unrealistic. They were cloud castles, and I believe that also it was more brought up by dreamers than by realists. But my boss at the time, who was also from Europe, said, "Rob, even if it's raining like hell in the US, the business people there always will have the sun shining. So you need to adapt to it." And I adapted my style. I didn't become a dreamer in the end, but I still have those sandbagging elements, I think, when I pitch ideas, but much less than before. And I must say that works. So my advice for you, for your pitches today, is not to be a stayer or not to be a dreamer, but to be a transformer, because that is what we require in the European bioeconomy. That starts with a great idea, but the idea will remain in the cloud in case you can connect it to something that will make the transformation also happen. So in your pitches, let the sun shine, but also provide us with the reasons to believe that your idea will make the transformation happen. So I look very much forward to the pitches, and I wish you a lot of good luck in that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rob. And we will then proceed with this session. First, let me remind everybody of some housekeeping rules for the session. Can you please stay unmuted? We do this from our central control here. If you have questions, you can type them into this Q&A box that you will see on your screen. And you can do so during all the webinar, and we will address these questions during the Q&A sessions. But there's also the possibility for you to raise your hand and ask your question live, if you will, when we provide you the opportunity to speak. Okay, so having said that, let me remind you again, why is it that we, BIC, are so interested in this program? And we have a set of objectives from the start. Ben, if you can show on to the next slide. Okay. So basically, we have a main three objectives. One is to raise awareness and involve students in the transition towards bioeconomy. And we need this. We really need to make bioeconomy and bio-based industry mainstream in education and everything we do. And we are planning to do so by involving more, at a greater extent, the members of BIC, both industry and non-industry members, and also support from the advisory bodies from the joint undertaking. The second objective for us is to establish a lively and continuing interaction between graduating students and the bio-based industry. There are good reasons for this, both from the students, if they to get a better insight, a better knowledge of the industry, and possibly see if there's a career for them. And also from our perspective, to see who is there coming and ready to go on the market and that could possibly be offered a career opportunity with us. And we believe that we in BIC, we have all the ingredients to make this BISC-E the competition for students in the bio-based innovations in Europe. We have the elements, the partners that we need in this, and we have also a machinery to follow up with the winners. Not only will we provide sizable cash prizes, but we will also particularly focus on the winner. We will make him a full member of BIC. He will therefore, this winning team will participate as a full member in everything we do in programming and everything we do, and be part of it and contribute to it. But also we will support you in networking to help you get the way towards other partners and also potential financial partners. And we intend to come up with a system that after 1 or 2 years thereafter, we will come back, or we'll ask you to come back so that you can tell us what happened, how did your year go by. Then the system that we've been using so far and probably will continue is a twofold. We first have all the teams be judged by a panel of experts. And the panel of experts is shown on the next slide. Actually, it's the same team as last year. We have quite some continuity. They're still there, Mr. Kees de Gooijer, chairing this panel of judges now for the 3rd year in a row, doing an excellent job. In Wageningen, chairperson of the TKI Agri and Food. Then we have from the Czech Republic, Marcus Dettenhofer. And from Denmark, Mrs. Linne Lange. From Germany, the clip in cluster, Georg Lenzen. And Astrida Miqueltine, if I pronounce her name correctly, probably not 100%. She's from the Vytautas Magnus University in Kaunas. I would like to thank again the members for doing this splendid job now for this year again and helping to make BISC-E a success. Now, first, the winners, the 5 top ranked team are the ones shown here on the next slide. And these are the teams that will be pitching to you today. The JENAP team, with a project on genetic engineering of non-pathogenic black yeast for natural rubber synthesis. The team is from the University of Piemonte Orientale, Novara in Italy. The next team is the City Cowboys with a project of smart network of biofermenters in cities for turning biodegradable organic waste into valuable compost. A team from the Vytautas Magnus University, Kaunas in Lithuania. Then the valorized carbon team with a project on production of activated carbon from fruit waste, the University of Ghent in Belgium, followed by the Print 3D Mycelium with a project on customized orthotic insole 3D printed with mycelium, a team mostly from Wageningen University in Wageningen, of course, and a member also from the Technical University in Delft, the Netherlands is this. And the 5th team is the Ligno-Fun team with a project on lignin-based flocculants for wastewater remediation, a team combining Trinity College, Dublin City University, and the University College, all in Dublin and Ireland, of course. The agreement that we have with the teams are that they have 10 minutes to make their pitch. They had the freedom to make this, to use these 10 minutes as they like. They have a video prepared, self-made. They were helped on how to make these by Pitch Academy. They are free to use it or not use it, and when to use it or not. And the teams know that. And we have also shared already these videos on our website and also via the big YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, as we started today, we also started a live stream of this event via YouTube. And I'm sure that there will be many friends and families and colleagues watching the teams perform. Now, when we finish with the presentations, the big members present will be judging you. After the jury judge, the big members will judge. And basically, if you show the next slide, Ben, the jury will be looking at these criteria. The innovative aspects of the innovation, novelty, creativity, sustainability and circularity, very important for us. Environmental, biodiversity, climate change, end of life, all these things we would like to know and hear and know more about regarding your project. Technical feasibility, can we scale it up towards market deployment? Applicability, is there a need for it, or are we just making something that may be a dream? Is it viable? And finally, well, let me call it marketability, entrepreneurship. How does the full project come across? How do you present it? How much do you believe yourself in your project? And we're after to sustain you in your next step for entrepreneurships. Having said that, I would like now to turn the floor over to Kees de Gooijer, chairman of the panel of experts, for his input regarding the first round and the evaluation so far. Kees, go ahead.
Yes, no, Rob, thank you very much. Basically, you introduced a lot. What we had was a great day with all the teams, and a general observation after thanking the jury, Lena, Marcus, Georg, and Astrida, was that there are good presentations and good collaboration in the presentations. And what we observed was a tendency to start to work with larger volumes and or larger markets, what we think was excellent in their presentations. I have the scores from the jury here in front of me that was not revealed to the teams. It won't be revealed to you either. And what we liked, we give them a positive feedback and a point to improve after the judging process. What we liked in Belgium was a very complete idea. In France, it's an interesting resource. For Ireland, a high environmental impact. For Italy, a nice new system. For Lithuania, a sympathetic idea. For the Netherlands, a high-end use and 3D printing, we liked it. And Slovenia, which you don't get to see, the feedback was very short. Yes, cool. It's still my favorite subject. Just for the record, both Astrida and I did not vote for the teams for respectively Lithuania and the Netherlands. We added the average score in the spreadsheet, not to mess up the spreadsheet, but we did not vote for our respective countries. You can, by the way, as an audience. Why do we do it? Well, it's for me personally, actually very simple. This is the next generation of workers in the bio-based economy, and they are at an age where they can think freely. They're not hampered by company culture, NGO culture, governmental culture, or R&D culture. And that gives me a hell of a lot of energy. And I hope after the 5 presentations, you are going to see that you get the same energy as we as a jury did. That's it, Melo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kees. As always, right, handling your time spot as asked. So we still have even a minute to start, but we will go ahead right away with the first finalist, first team to perform. The sequence is totally at random. There's no particular reasoning after setting the team, okay, for everybody online to know this. This is totally random. So the first one that came out to perform will be the Janap team from Italy. And speaking to you will be Bisrat Sisai Bekele, and the team will start with a video. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are very excited to share with you our innovative project. And first, we'd like to start with a short video that we prepared for this challenge. And afterwards, we go on with the presentation.
Rubber. We use it in one of several ways, such as shoes, sport materials, tires, and gloves. Currently, rubber is made synthetically from non-renewable fossil fuels, where the production process has higher greenhouse gas emissions and its non-biodegradable byproducts are toxic to the environment. Additionally, production is not sustainable due to price fluctuations. Alternatively, rubber can be obtained naturally from rubber trees. However, deforestation and monocrop plantation of rubber trees destroys the local ecosystem and biodiversity. Moreover, production is not sustainable as it is affected by climate change, diseases, and pests. What if we told you a genetically engineered yeast offers an innovative solution to the environmental and sustainability challenge of producing rubber? In our preliminary work, we have successfully isolated a black yeast from the soil that intrinsically produces plastic-like substance. We also performed an initial safety screening test on a citrus fruit, and the results are promising as there were no observable decay. In order to stably produce rubber particles, we will incorporate the rubber machineries from rubber trees into the genome of the yeast. In our production process, we will not only produce rubber, but generate co-products such as electricity, biogenic carbon dioxide, and melanin extracted from black yeast. These products bring additional revenue to the business and further reduce the energy expenditure and rubber production costs. By addressing our challenge one step at a time, let us embark into the greener future where climate change and environmental issues are no longer threats to the very existence of life in our planet.
All right. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we go on with the presentation. So in 2020, the global rubber production was estimated at 28 billion kilograms. Now, how big is 28 billion kilograms? Well, it's equivalent to about 50,000 A380 Airbus aircrafts, each weighing at about 560,000 kilograms. Now, there are two forms of rubber. The one is synthetic rubber, which accounts for 70% of the total rubber produced. However, its production is not eco-friendly and sustainable. Alternative to this is natural rubber, which accounts for 30% of the total rubber produced. Although it is eco-friendly compared to synthetic rubber, its production is not sustainable. In 2021, the global rubber market size was estimated at about $31 billion US, and a 7-year projectile assessment shows that the market is expected to grow and reach at about $38 billion US. Looking at the global rubber production, we can see that Europe only produces synthetic rubber and that it is heavily dependent on imported natural rubber. In fact, it's the third largest importer of natural rubber, which does not guarantee a sustained supply. Therefore, EU urgently needs an alternative source of natural rubber that is eco-friendly and sustainable. Previously, yeast has been used as an innovative host for producing commercial products. Similarly, in our project, we will be using a genetically engineered black yeast to produce rubber. However, the question is, why black yeast? The reason is because black yeasts have some attractable features such as low nutrient requirement, thermotolerance, inherent biodegradable property, and therefore they are an ideal host for the production of ectopic rubber particles. In our approach, we will co-express the rubber polymerase genes that we will obtain from natural rubber trees into the genome of the yeast so as to stably produce a rubber polymer. Now, in our preliminary results, we were able to isolate a black yeast that has a diffusive growth, smooth and mucoid texture. And according to literature, this could be due to an enhanced cytosolic production of rubber precursor molecules, such as the isopentenyl pyrophosphate. In addition to that, we performed a pathogenicity test, and with the results, we were very excited to see that there were no observable decay, which then instigates further tests in other models. Now, the two pillars of our business model are producing rubber and co-product valorization. And in our process design, we start with a corn stover, the leftover from a cornfield, which undergoes pretreatment and hydrolysis. And the lignin portion of the feedstock will be fractionated. And then after pretreatment and then combusted to generate electricity and steam on site, where it provides the necessary energy for the biorefinery, and the surplus can be sold for electric grid. In addition to that, from the extraction reactor, we will be able to isolate melanin from the exhausted black yeast and our product polyisoprene rubber, and also the byproduct that is happening from the fermentation reactor, the biogenic carbon dioxide, will be isolated in a flash separator and purified and then packaged for different application. Now, in the life cycle assessment, the different methods of producing rubber were compared based on 3 parameters: the land use, net greenhouse gas emission, ozone depletion, and acidification potential. And from the graph, we can see that the fermentation reaction has the least greenhouse gas emission, and also that it uses less land space, thus supporting the circular biogenic carbon economy. Now, in the market analysis, our experience includes the operating machineries, including their installation and maintenance, and we are assuming that the operating lifetime of these machineries are 10 years. In addition to that, the production cost per year includes corn stover, the starting material. We apologize for the zero, but it is 800,000 metric tons per year, including consumables and transportation, as well as operation staff. It will make the all adding up to a total of 118 million euros as an initial starting capital. Now, once the operation is fully functional, in addition to producing polyisoprene, co-products such as electricity, biogenic carbon dioxide, and melanin will add additional revenue into the business, thus making it an annual profit of about 718 million euros. This makes the selling price of our polyisoprene at €1.99 per kilogram, compared to natural rubber and synthetic rubber that are valued at €1.78 per kilogram. Now, our target markets include both the heavy and light industries, the heavy industry being the tire industry with low revenue, but the smaller and lighter industry being such as the medical gloves has a higher turnover profit. With this, we can say that a new rubber technology is on the horizon that has a thinner and smoother texture with relatively hypoallergenic safety, thus making the product comfortable. Having said that, we would like to conclude by saying that our innovative bio-based rubber product is sustainable, economically viable, and environmentally prudent. And also the co-products such as electricity, biogenic carbon dioxide, and melanin add revenue into the business model, and therefore cutting down the energy expenditure and production costs of rubber. So the future is green energy, sustainability, and environmental safety, because there is no place like home. Having said that, we would like to thank our collaborators for their contribution into this project, and we thank you for your attention.
Excellent, Bisrat, for your presentation, well in time and loud and clear. Now, it's our turn now. 8 members present. I would love for you to be active now and interact with the Italian team, with Bisrat and his partner. Any question? Is there any question in the Q&A that I can see? I see none. Do you, team, I'm asking my big team now, is there any question that I do not see? I see now one upcoming. Here's a question for the team. Thank you for the presentation. What about the product's end of life? Could you please talk about the end of life stage and what it is that you propose included in the project regarding end of life sustainable, please.
Yes, for the end of life in our project, we assumed that the products we shall be producing, they have a long lifetime, and that the carbon that is inside will be stored for a long time period. But however, we also included the fact that we are going to be producing in EU, and EU countries are operating these waste products from rubber and according to the EU circular economy, which enables recycling and reusing the products. So there are several methods of reusing rubber, which includes shredding and incineration.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Lara, is that a sufficient answer to your question? And in the meantime, any other question? Yes, there is a question to be asked live. Ben, can you please provide the member the possibility? And Lara, thanks you. Okay, thank you. Ben, was there somebody who wanted to pose a question verbally?
No verbal questions yet.
Oh, okay. While a team and participants are coming up with questions, let me ask you a question, Janab team. You are starting from the cover, the feedstock. Is there the corn stover? And out of there you get the lignin. How about the availability of this corn stover, of this feedstock? Can you estimate, is this sustainable? Is this enough?
Well, according to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, this estimate was shown that it was sufficient to produce the biopolyisoprene that we require per year. And we can safely say that it is sufficient enough to produce the needed biopolyisoprene that we require and to make a profit out of the produced rubber. And in addition to corn stover, there are also alternative sources of sugar, such as molasses from sugarcane industry. So we are not only restricted to corn stover, but we can also source other from other agro industries for this process.
Okay, so you have looked into additional or extra or other feedstock streams.
That's correct.
Okay, I know that our chairman, Rob Baker, has his hand up. Rob, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, so I couldn't get it typed in the Q&A, so better verbally. So interesting idea. Did you, when you look at black yeast and the large players in the rubber industry, is your idea different than what others already have looked into? So have you compared what you are investigating if somebody else hasn't done that already, and where do you differ, or what is making your idea unique compared to what others may have already explored?
All right, thank you very much for this good question. We have currently there are bioengineered bacteria such as E. coli that are being applied in this rubber industry. However, with the yeast that is in eukaryotic cell, there's a flexibility of post-translational modification, and also that these black yeasts are able to accumulate oil droplets that are similar to rubber. So, and also the fact that yeast also requires for its fermentation and normal room temperature. This is an advantage for our product process design because it cuts down the energy cost, because for example, if we see the bacteria, they operate at a certain temperature like 35 or something degrees Celsius. So for this, the fermenting reactor needs to be stable at that temperature, and for that we need an extra energy. But with the yeast, it has an advantage because the fermentation happens at low temperature, and also that their genome is compared to the prokaryotic bacteria. It is viable for us to perform this engineering in this microorganism.
Okay, thank you. Here's a question from Christophe Biernat, a logical one from industry and for us. Thank you, of course, for the presentation. But can you give us an idea about the level of the technological readiness, the TRL level of your proposal, your idea?
We can say that in terms of technicality, first, we wanted to characterize this new strain of black yeast because it's unlike other black yeast that are out there. The morphology of this discovered black yeast is peculiar because it has a mucoid and smooth texture, and also that it inherently produces plastic-like substance. Unlike the black yeast that are pathogenic because they are filamentous and they have a different morphology. So we wanted to first start with characterization of this host with the blast sequence. And afterwards, we wanted to start with the pilot scale production, for example, in the lab, so that we can estimate the scalability of the production when we are on the field. So according to that, and also that we wanted to genetically modify this the genome of this yeast using the rubber genes that we will obtain from the rubber tree. So according to our plan out or outline, this is how we are proceeding at the moment.
Are you saying that the TRL level is what, still at lab level?
At the moment, yes, because we are in the early phase of our studies, and there are still some tests that we want to run, for example, in the characterization of the host so that we classify it in its phylogenetic tree, and then afterwards proceed with the requirements that we need, because the reason why we are here is also to share our idea and attract potential investors so as to help us achieve our goal.
Okay. I see another question here from Christophe about the technique, if it's unique or is it currently being done by others. This is looks like also the question that Rob just asked. So do you have anything else to add? I believe you answered that question. Then a question from Charlotte Schöler. Thank you again for the presentation. What about the downstream process and purification after the fermentation? So what about the downstream processes?
The downstream processes are, the first one is in the extraction reactor, where we will extract our product, the polyisoprene, from the exhausted media that we have. And the second one is isolation of melanin from exhausted black yeast. And for this, we would use chloroform for extraction. And also the downstream of that is the carbon dioxide, the biogenic carbon dioxide extraction, which is a product from the fermentation reactor, which will be purified and isolated using a flash separator and then packaging it and for providing it for different industrial applications. And the yeast itself also can be hydrolyzed to generate nutrients for the coming batch of operation. So this is how we are seeing it. Maybe if you would like to add something.
Yes, because if we're doing this way to hydrolyze the yeast after extraction of melanin, it provides the tryptophan, because yeasts spend most of their time manufacturing tryptophan. It's the most used amino acid. They must use the amino acid.
Okay. We're running quickly, almost out of time. A quick question and a quick answer also. You talked about quite an investment here. Do you have already contacts, links with investors, financial sources?
Currently not, but we have been contacted with one rubber company to see the feasibility of our project, and it will be in the coming days that we will undergo some discussion about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we're running out of time, and I would like to proceed. This is excellently done within this time frame. So thank you again, Bisrat, and your colleague and partner, Peter Seguyo, on the line there.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. We're going to move on quickly to the finalist from Lithuania, City Cowboys from the Vytautas Magnus University, and this team, Mykolas Mazukawa. You are going to start with your PowerPoint. Go ahead, please.
So, hello everyone. Some of you are already familiar with our Lithuanian team innovative idea, which our team will present to you today. We improved some things from earlier presentation, and without further ado, let's get right into it. If you are a resident of apartment building who lives in city of Lithuania and you love organic ecological food, you are left with loads of bio waste. It will probably end up and rot in common landfills without any use. And we thought of an innovative idea which will help us to solve this problem. Our suggested innovation, network of biofermenters, compost making machines, which would accelerate compost making process. We plan to install biofermenters throughout densely populated urban areas, in cities near rubbish bins of apartment buildings. People who live there would be able to throw away their bio waste into reactors, thus contributing to the creation of compost, natural fertilizer. Our project is deemed as profitable, self-sustaining business. Regarding innovative aspects and advantages of our business, first of all comes aspect of acceleration of composting process. Composting with Our suggested method requires materials, electricity, certain amount of time to create 100% natural and organic fertilizer, compost, in just 1 to 3 days instead of 2 to 3 months if we compost naturally. And second innovation is purposeful, efficient usage of bio-waste collected from apartment buildings. As part of biodegradable waste in Lithuania often ends up and rots in common landfills, using it as organic resource for making compost would be a great solution in terms of environmental friendliness and economic utility. And now moving on to technical information.
So, biofermenter is a device for rapid composting or organic waste. The operation of turning bio-waste into compost is based on constant mixing, the activity of archaebacteria, and maintenance of temperature and humidity. The device uses electricity and is stationary. Based on the initial research data, the compost is treated within 24 hours instead of 3 months, and the volume and mass are reduced by up to 90%, depending on the initial content. Composting releases natural gas, which is filtered by special filters. The facility will accommodate approximately 5 apartment-type buildings with about 500 inhabitants. Its permanent location would be next to garbage bin, and there will be a separate roof which would act as a shelter for the machine. Move on.
Composting solves several problems. Landfills become smaller, while the organic waste, when can be used, will be composted. Every 45 kilos of food waste in our landfill sends 3 kilos, 800 grams of methane into the atmosphere. One fermentator will reduce 14,693 kilos of methane per year. Compost improves the structure of the soil by adding important nutrients, balancing pH level, and allowing for better moisture infiltration and rotation. Also, the use of mineral fertilizers is declining. As well as positive effects on environment, composting provides a useful way to explore educational opportunities together in schools. The students will be educated from a young age by introducing the values of environment and ecology. Compost can be used to aid learning like team building, communication, science, math, design and construction, and so on. Lithuanian schools infrastructure is in residential areas, so biofermentators will be available to students in public areas. We think that compost education in schools can also serve as a good word-of-mouth advertising tool, because parents of children will also learn about this new innovation. And we think that this project will benefit not only the environment, but also the community, educating the younger generation, fostering environmental values. Moving on.
Moving on to our fourth way to sell compost in Lithuanian market. Compost would be collected by employees of private business companies or municipal services and sold to private buyers, such as farmers, agriculture companies who are interested in the usage of natural fertilizers. And when it comes to installment and usage of bioreactors, there are certain key components which has to be considered. Electricity usage and shelter building for safe operating of machines are 2 of them. We plan to get electricity for our bioreactors by renting solar panels from our local electricity providers. And as we calculated, it is much cheaper to get electricity in such way. And also wooden shelters, protection for bioreactors must be built in order to provide safety for our working machines, considering meteorological factors such as rain, snow in Lithuania, and so on. And moving on to our economic analysis, one bigger biofermenter, which can compost about 120 kilos of food waste per day with shelter, would cost approximately 30,600 euros. There are also some additional costs related to maintenance, operations, sheltering, and checkups of bioreactor, which would come up with a total sum of about 300 euros per year. This number depends on the scale, development of business itself, and electricity costs would reach around 1,800 euros per year per one bioreactor. One medium-sized biofermenter can turn about 43 tons of bio-waste into compost per year. Let's say that the machine will work at 90% of its maximum capability. That means that from one bioreactor, we would get about 15.5 tons of high-quality compost per year, having in mind that we get about 400 grams of compost from 1 kilo of biomass. Approximate price of compost in Lithuania now is around €0.50 per kilogram. If we would manage to sell all compost which we acquire from our bioreactor, we would get about 7,500 euros in revenue per year. And when we deduct all costs, yearly maintenance fees, profit taxes, we are left with around 4,500 euros in profit, which means that one bioreactor starts to be profitable after about 6.5 years of usage, and approximate yearly return on investment is around 15.5%. So that is it with our presentation. And if we still have some time, we would like to share our video.
Yes, go ahead. You have time. You need to start it now.
Yes, yes.
If you are a resident of apartment building who lives in city of Lithuania and you love organic ecological food, you are probably left with loads of bio-waste. Waste which will probably end up and rot in common landfills without any use. We thought of an innovative idea which will solve this problem. We could use thrown away bio-waste efficiently by building a network of bioreactors near apartment buildings in cities. Bioreactors which could turn bio-waste into compost, valuable natural fertilizer. There are two innovative aspects to our idea. Firstly, we accelerate compost making process by using bioreactors instead of natural composting. And by doing so, bio-waste can be processed into compost in just 24 hours instead of 2 months. And secondly, we use bio-waste efficiently, which in case of bio-waste from Lithuanian apartment buildings, nowadays often ends up in common landfills without any use. Work cycle of biofermenter is very simple. People simply throw away their waste into the machine, where biomass is shredded, mixed, aerated for 24 to 72 hours. After that time, biowaste is fully turned into compost. Because of work of only one bioreactor, biowaste is safely turned into compost, and up to about 15,000 kilograms of methane, toxic and poisonous gas, doesn't get released into the atmosphere. Business model of bioreactors can also be used to educate students of schools about benefits of composting and eco-friendly lifestyle. When it comes to business model itself, network of biofermenters could be owned by private companies which would gain access and be able to sell compost produced from bio-waste. We plan to power up our biofermenters by using electric energy generated from rented solar panels. It is cheap, efficient and eco-friendly solution. Project is deemed as profitable, self-sustaining business. One bioreactor, which works at 90% of its capability, can generate up to 4,600 euros in profit per year. Approximate yearly return on our business investment reaches up to 15.5%. We hope that because of usefulness, eco-friendliness of our idea, after 5 years every resident building in Lithuania will have its own fully operating bioreactor machine for a brighter future.
Okay, thank you, Mikolas, for your presentation. We are running into the Q&A time. A quick question for you to help us think. When you spoke about the cost, you said 300 euro, but your slides showed a different number. So can you tell us what is the cost that you were talking about now?
Yes, so the cost, yes. The cost of machine itself and wooden shelter is around 30,600 euros. And the costs of yearly maintenance and annual checkups reaches up to around 300 euros per year per one machine.
Okay, it's the maintenance that is 300. Okay, okay,
Yes.
all right. All right. Let me see if we have questions in the Q&A. I have a question here from Dirk. Dirk Carré, is the technology protected? For example, is it patented, or are you looking to make it patented?
Well, biofermenter itself is not patented, as there are loads of such machines throughout the world. But innovation of our idea basically is acceleration of acceleration of composting of thrown away bio waste from residential apartment buildings, which people nowadays throw away without any use, and we would use such bio waste to make natural fertilizer.
Okay. Next question for you from Christoph de Smith, and this is, of course, a logical question from our side. What is the biggest barrier in your proposal to scale it up and really get it going in your country, in the communities, etc., in your country, please?
Yes, the biggest barrier, as I already mentioned in the earlier tour, we are pretty much 100% dependent on people who would or would not throw away their bio waste into the reactor.
This brings up a question that I have, a follow-up maybe. Since it's obviously you're going to place these biofermenters near apartment buildings, you want the people to do this. How does the community, the council, the politicians, the whoever, policymakers, do they support your idea? Have you been in touch with them?
Not yet so far, but we had some encouragement from our university, from our mentors, that this idea might be very interesting to our local municipality, to be more exact, in city of Kaunas. We could move on. We could potentially move on and do this project in our city.
Okay, that's indeed a very crucial step, obviously. We have another question here. Does it take a lot of energy to run the bioreactors? You talked lightly about this, but any idea the cost, extent of energy cost?
Yes, the energy costs until we figured out to rent solar panels was a very big thing for us, as one bioreactor uses up to 1,500 kilowatt hours of energy per month. So it is very costly from this perspective. But as we would rent out some solar panels from our local electricity provider, Ignitis to be more exact, local electricity company in Lithuania, they are providing solar panel renting services for about 10 euro cents per kilowatt hour. The cost of electricity would be that cheap, so there wouldn't be a problem in this sphere.
Okay, and next one here. What about the infrastructure for collecting the waste from a household? The infrastructure, the logistical processes thereabout. Have you thought about that? Started working on these?
We haven't started working, but we have thought about it. So basically, there are two ways. Either local municipal services could set up a certain logistical chain to collect this bio waste for composted bio waste. Either we would do it by ourselves, by our established private business company.
And building on this, on the infrastructure, here's a question from Pekka, saying that in many cities, bio-waste is being collected centrally and then with a central treatment. So you go for bigger volumes. Could your process with the pellet, it looks like you have high number of these biofermenters in the vicinity of apartment buildings. Can it be really scaled up? And what would then be cost for investments and maintenance? Would it drop these costs if you scale it up, make them more central?
Yes, we haven't calculated the exact number, but the idea that we have is that the cost would be reduced I don't know the exact number, but the cost would be reduced as the business would scale up. As in Lithuania, a lot of bio-waste is just thrown away and it rots in landfills. Therefore, we would have enough biomass thrown away every day to potentially have a lot of bioreactors, at least a couple hundred of them, working nonstop in various cities.
Mm-hmm. And follow up from Pekka, how about the sorting itself? Is it crucial? I mean, can you dump everything, bones and fruits and everything that people waste? Can you put them all there in the biofermenter?
Yeah, you can put into the biofermenter, you can put all the waste that is biodegradable. You know, from banana peels to some harder materials, harder used food materials. And therefore, yeah, I think that it is a very crucial thing as if bio-waste is simply thrown away and piled up in common landfills, a lot of methane toxic gas is gets emitted into the atmosphere. Therefore, yeah, we also solve this problem.
Just to make sure, do people have to sort their bio-waste before they dump it into this biofermenter? Do they have to? What do they have to do?
They simply have to separate their bio-waste from common trash.
Okay, just that. They had to make sure that they put organic waste into the biofermenter.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Okay. Yeah, only organic waste.
Yes, all organic waste can be thrown into biofermentators.
Okay, so it requires something from the people. This brings me to one of the things that you mentioned in your presentation was the educational opportunities. Have you been in contact with educational institutions, with school, for wherever, or maybe even owners' organization of these apartments to try and quote unquote educate them as to what they should be doing if to make this project a success?
We have in our university we have some schools like partners, and we think and we asked them if they would be interested, and they said yes, of course, in biofermenting process learning in schools.
And any particular action that they would like to undertake to support you?
Not yet, but to my knowledge, we, in some of our local city Kaunas schools, ecological education is a subject which is taught to younger people, students, and I think we could integrate this topic of biofermenting into the program, and maybe, yeah.
Okay, good. Mikolas and team, thank you very much. We ran out of time. Nice interaction with you. We are going to proceed. So thank you again, team from the City Cowboys. And we're now on to Belgium. The valorized carbon team, University of Ghent, and the team captain, Lien de Koen. Please come in, and you are being assisted, as I understand, by Elisa and Hannah. Your time starts. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. We are Team Valorized Carbon from Ghent University in Belgium. These are Lien and Hannah, and I am Elisa. So we made a video of our pitch to convince you of our idea. So let's watch the video.
Activated carbon is omnipresent, essential in many applications, from wastewater treatment, gas purification, soil remediation, and many more. But there is a major downside to this product. Its production is not sustainable. And this problem does not go unnoticed. The whole world agrees. There is another way. Research has shown that food waste can be valorized to be part of the solution. In Europe alone, more than 1.6 million tons of fruit kernels are wasted now, but can be transformed into valuable activated carbon. There are plenty of options: cherry stones, olive stones, walnut shells, and locally in Belgium, we have plum stones. Based on this research, we designed a production plant which provides a local solution. With an input of 30,000 tons of plum stones a year, we will yield 4,000 tons of activated carbon. With the current market prices for activated carbon, this would result in a payback time of 6 years. Also, our planet benefits of an emission reduction of 10 kilograms CO2 per kilogram of activated carbon made by us compared to the one made from coal. This plant alone can reduce CO2 emissions by 40,000 tons compared to the current production.
We are Valorize Carbon, creating a local solution for a global problem.
All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. So we'll share the slides. Yeah. So we are aiming to make black gold from your green waste. But what is this black gold or activated carbon? Well, activated carbon is an absorbent with a high porosity and a high internal surface area. It is used in many industries on large and small scales. For example, in your wastewater treatment plants to purify your water, in gas filtrations, in the food industry, and many more. But if it already exists, why are we aiming to make it as well?
Well, because the current production of activated carbon is really not sustainable. Today, it's mainly made from coal and lignite, which are fossil fuels. And as we all know, these cause global warming, and there are a lot of mining problems related to these resources. Secondly, Asia is the main market shareholder of the products, which makes Europe really dependent on the production there. So there's a problem with the resource, and also Europe does not sustain its own production. So what did we do? We created a local solution for a global problem.
So what is this solution? If you look in the world, there are a lot of precursors that can be used to make activated carbon that is not coal or lignite. So we have coconut shells, palm waste, but we wanted to look at a local solution. So we looked at the productions and precursors in Europe. In Europe, we have plum stones, cherry stones, olive stones, but what did we do? In Belgium, we have a lot of plum stones. So we looked if on a pilot scale, if you could make activated carbon from plum stones. This was a good result. So we looked, where can we get these plum stones? If we go, the two biggest mainest companies that make jams and other things from fruits have just tons of piles of fruits laying there or are incinerated, but the return is not so high. There's not so much energy in those stones. So those two companies can give us 30,000 tons of fruit stones a year. So that would result in an activated carbon of 4 tons a year.
Yes. So for our bachelor thesis, we did some tests to check if the quality from the activated carbon made from plum stones was commercially competitive. And this was the case. So what did we do? We took some plum stones and we did a physical activation on them. So that's a 2-step activation. Then we got activated carbon, which was then tested, and the results were promising. However, we at Ghent University are developing a new technology, which is a 1-step activation. And this could even improve our techno-economic analysis and our environmental impact. So keeping this in mind, we made a plant design. So it looks a bit like this. First, the bits are transported from our suppliers towards storage rooms. And from there on, the bits are sent through the production process. So the first step is the mill. Here, the particles are shredded to smaller particles. Then the bits go through the dryer. And after that, we send them through carbonization. From the carbonization step, we get biochar, which is then sent through activation, where the biochar is purged with steam, creating activated carbon. And this activated carbon is then sieved to the correct particle size, packaged and sent towards our clients. So there are 2 things we did to make our plant more sustainable. The first thing is, you see here an energy recovery system. What do we do? Well, we take the biogas and we burn it. which creates a lot of heat. And this heat is then sent to the steps before, so to the dryer and the carbonization step. So this makes this process break even and really lowers our operational expenses. Secondly, we installed a condenser and a boiler unit, which recovers our water and lowers our water use. So all in all, our plant is really sustainable and looked at a lot of options to make it as sustainable as possible. So now we know how the plant works, but what does this all cost?
So for the economic analysis, we did a techno-economic analysis using a model, and in this model we use some assumptions. The first is the capacity factor of the capacity of 30,000 tons a year. It's the same number that we could get from those two companies near Belgium, with the capacity factor of 90%. In our during our experiment, we became a yield of 18%. So that means that we could make 4,000 tons of activated carbon a year, and we estimate that our lifetime of the plant would be around 15 years. So this will give us a total capital expenses of 16.5 million euros. We also looked at the operational expenses. That was around 4.2 million euros a year, with its variable, fixed, and general expenses. But the main question, do you get your money back? Our activated carbon is commercially competitive. So we can take the market price of activated carbon, that's around 2.2 euros per kilogram of activated carbon. So this would give us a revenue of 8.8 million euros a year. And with the current prices, it will give us a payback time of 5 to 6 years. And you get a return on your investment of 53%.
So you'll get your money back, and the planet also benefits, because there would be an emission reduction of 10 kilograms CO2 per kilogram of activated coal made by us compared to the one made from coal. And this will make us eligible for carbon credits. So let us invest in this technology. With your help, we can form a local solution for a global problem. We were Valorized Carbon, activating your waste, and we're happy to answer any of your questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Lien, Elisa, and Hannah. And you are excellently in time. I have maybe as a starter, and while the Q&A is being populated, when you show that when you burn, or after the carbonization step, you show the pyrogas being burned for heat, and you return for the heating process, heat exchange, and this sort of thing. But how about the exhaust from that burning? Is the CO2 there being captured and done something with it, or what happens there? Or did I miss something?
The CO2 is also used in the carbonation step. It's just an inert gas, so it can just be used in the carbonization. And in the future, we can also look at some other possibilities to reuse the CO2, maybe in our activation step also.
Yes, because right now we're using steam to activate our biochar, but this can also be done with CO2. And if we could recover our CO2 from the exhaust gas and send this to our activation, then we have even more recovering of gases.
All right, I'm asking a question as we're listening to your answers. So, okay. Here's a question from Christophe, and building on, you brought forward apparently the unique thing, or the uniqueness of your proposal is that you reduce from 2 steps to 1 step. Have you filed a patent, of you protecting it in some other way?
Yes, we're trying to protect it. So that's why we also cannot give very much information about it. And it's also still in a smaller scale that we are
still in the research phase right now.
That's in the research phase. Quickly, I see from the team, the big team, is there you wanted to introduce or interrupt or intervene in this question? Anybody? No. Then I will proceed. From Pekka, question: plum and olive stones were one example of raw materials. What about the logistics to get this raw material prepared and brought to the operational site? Because they're usually available locally, and they're heavily dependent on seasonality. And how about the cost of doing all these logistical steps and storing and this sort of thing? So how does that look like? The whole feedstock, availability, logistics, etc.
So we only use those 30,000 tons because mainly it's easier to storage if we have a lower capacity. And also we looked at companies near us, near in Belgium, so that the transportation costs also be lower, so that the transportation wouldn't be too far. And that's the whole concept of the product, is that it's local. So if we go upscaling it, we would like to plant the plants where there are lots of olive stones in those neighborhoods, so that the transportation would be reduced and that we could like that. But the storage is one of our the most difficult problems to solve.
Uh-huh. And I can imagine also when you plan to upscale this process, you really need to look into that. What is you mentioned that you have tested this during your bachelor studies or your studies in the lab. So is the TRL level, the technology readiness level of your proposal still at that phase? And what are needed, would you estimate, to upscale this innovation further?
Currently, our process is finished, so it's ready to be upscaled. We're just looking for funding. So yeah, it's ready to be implemented.
Yeah, and we estimate this would be around 2 years of building time. So hopefully in the near future, we can get started.
2 years building time to run on a feedstock of what you said, on the what is it, 30,000 ton?
To build a production plant, yeah.
And feed it with 30,000 ton?
Yes, correct.
No, if we start right now with the building of our production plant, it would be 2 years, then it would be finished, and then we can start producing from 30,000 tons to 4,000 tons a year.
Okay, and before I leave this and go to another one, so you're looking at setting up this plant with 30,000 ton of plum stones. What happens with these plum stones today? Question from Dirk also. Is there a
being integrated to get energy from it, but this is really a low quality recovery, and we are planning to make it higher quality recycling. So activated carbon is really more interesting to make than just energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a question from Remy Perrin. Remy would like to take the question yourself. Is that it, Remy? Ben, is that correct? Does Remy want to pose the question himself live?
That's right, yes. Remy should be able to unmute now.
This is good. See, we make use of live.
Sorry, do you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, excuse me. It's not really a question, but a surprise about your carbon footprint. About 8 kilogram equivalent of CO2 per kilograms of carbon char. I'm really surprised about this level of carbon dioxide, knowing that the basic petrochemicals additives are between 1 and 4 kg CO2 equivalent per kg of product. So just 8 kg of carbon dioxide per kg of char seems to be completely unrealistic, even if it's a big improvement compared to the coal. But today, to promote product with 8 kilograms of equivalent CO2 per kg is just enormous. And so how do you make your calculation? And what's the carbon impact you pick up for your feedstock?
Is this this number you are saying 1 to 4 kilograms? Is this just for the production from coal, or does it also include the mining?
No, it's just other.
No, my question is for you.
Or kilograms of CO2, it's not our plant that we did. We wanted to include, and we looked at the papers online. So it's not our plant. It's not our plant that we have calculated. We have looked at similar plants and other things, but it can vary very much. But we wanted to.
But yeah, thank you for your remark. It's something we also are planning maybe to evaluate better in the future, because as Hannah said, it's something we based on literature. So it would be interesting indeed to see the actual number. So thank you for
yeah, have a look on that, because just if you present for a bio-based feedstock with, I would say, a quite simple transformation, figures about 8 kilograms of carbon dioxide per kilogram of product. This is just enormous.
We'll take a look into it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Remy, and thank you for your candid answer, Team Belgium. Let me see, we still have some minutes to go while we are waiting. Are you still online? I see, I hope so. I have a question regarding the payback time. You show that it can be done in 5 to 6 years to get my money back. Have you had any contact with investors, financial providers, what they feel about first the project and what they feel about your calculated payback time?
Yes, we're in contact with Desotec, the main activated carbon producer in Belgium. And they're very interested in our technology and would be willing to invest. So
they are willing to invest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They are interested in talking more about. It's not like we have a contract or something. No.
Yeah, you don't have a signed contract yet, but and then how about demand? As you stated, activated carbon is of course high in demand. But have you had already contact with particular or specific off-takers?
Not yet. Not yet. No.
Are you looking for a particular market sector to start with?
No, activated carbon is used in so many sectors that maybe best to look who wants it.
But yeah, indeed, as we said, maybe with Desotec, as they are, they transport activated coal to many industries, so it would be a good place to start, maybe.
You know, it's always good to have a particular target to start with, and then expand it from there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We have 1 more minute, and I don't see. Is there Ben? Is there a technical problem?
No, everything's working already.
Okay. I see my screen is doing something strange. Anyway, we have 1 more minute, and I don't. Can I see the Q&A? Is there anything in the Q&A? Quickly, we asked that question. The payback we asked. Hayes Arnold, thank you for the presentation. Have you considered stopping the process when you have obtained a biochar? There's a growing market for this product, for biochar, as a spill additive in the voluntary carbon market, carbon offsets. So if you consider stopping right there at the biochar?
We have not considered that, but it's interesting to look at that option, of course.
But for my understanding, biochar has a much lower value so we could get less money of it. So I don't know if it would be a good economic investment.
Okay, you're after the added values by going a step further. Is that it? Okay. We have run out of time. I would like to thank the Valorized Carbon team from Ghent in Belgium. Thank you, ladies, and we will proceed with the next one.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. The next finalist is the Print 3D Mycelium project from the Wageningen University and a partner from the Technical University in Delft. Please, Purva, go ahead. And Robin will also speak. Go ahead, Purva.
Thank you so much. So this is a picture of me when I was a child, and I've always loved playing tennis, and it's brought me so much joy in my childhood, but also a lot of pain because I would play for hours and then come back home and my feet would hurt a lot. And I suffer from chronic foot pain. Like a lot of you in this meeting probably can relate or know someone who does. And millions of people all over the world have chronic pain, but I was really looking for a personalized foot care solution for myself. And unfortunately, everything on the market was made with fossil fuel derived plastics, and they were quite expensive. So as a student, I really was looking for something that would not pollute the planet and would also be affordable. At the same time, the Netherlands, where we live, it produces massive amounts of mushroom industry waste. So our team decided to find a solution to both these problems by making a foot sole, which is perfectly customized to my foot, made from mushroom industry waste, from mycelium. And we want to show you our journey today. So very excited about showing you what we've done. So there's a very good reason why the whole world is built around plastics. Plastics are incredibly versatile. They're really wonderful material, really. So they're very lightweight, thermoresistant. They can be made into textiles. And you see these little pellets are plastic pellets, which are melted and poured into any imaginable shape. So traditional biomaterials like wood or cork aren't able to compete on a lot of these fronts. Recently, there's been research into mycelium, which is the root-like structure of mushrooms, as an alternative. And as you see this lampshade in the picture, mycelium works in a similar way to plastic, in the sense that if you chop it up and you put it into a mold, it only goes stronger and it takes the shape of the mold. It's very lightweight, has great compressive strength, as you see in the picture with packaging. And people are also making leather-like textiles from it. So really versatile. Companies are already producing mycelium, mainly for packaging. I'm also doing my internship at such a company, so I see firsthand how the production is, and I see that it is inefficient in many ways. Firstly, you need to buy fresh straw or hemp, which has been inoculated with mycelium. And in today's bioeconomy, straw and hemp, they're not exactly a waste source anymore. They have so many uses already. And then you stuff this inoculated straw into molds. And if somebody comes to you with a small batch of very customized things that they want made, it's very difficult to cater to them because you're restricted then by the molds that you have. It's an expensive process. And most importantly, this method is under license. So that's where we come in. We want to disrupt how mycelium is produced at the moment. So we have a circular process because we use the waste from a mushroom producer as the mycelium source. We're using energy efficient forms of 3D printing. This saves us a lot of energy and cost. And that's very relevant today in Europe. And we're able to then use 3D printing to create really, really customized geometries. And I'll show you step by step how. So the Netherlands, where we live, it's a global leader in mushroom production. And as a result of mushroom production, you also have a lot of waste substrate or spent mycelium. And on the left picture, you see our local mushroom producer, and she also throws away hundreds of kilos of substrate. And we wanted to stop this because we love mycelium. It's such a valuable thing. So we set up a collaboration with her and we started saving some of this, which you see in the right picture with us with a block of spent mushroom substrate. And this is a very local waste stream, but the idea is globally adaptable. And I'll hand it over to Robin.
Yeah, so then in order to actually create these customizable mycelium products, we developed two ways to make them. And the first way is to create a 3D printed mold out of PLA bioplastic. And this is exactly what we did to create Purva's insole. So here on the left, you can see a 3D scan that I made with my phone of her foot. And then I used this scan to create the 3D model for the mold that you can see on the right, that is 3D printed out of PLA bioplastic. And this mold has the perfect geometry of Purva's foot etched into it, as you can see. And then when this mold was stuffed with mycelium substrate and the final product was done, we had a perfectly fitting mold to her foot, or sorry, a perfectly fitting insole. And because we are 3D printing only a mold and not the final product, we can use a much more energy and cost-effective method of 3D printing compared to traditional 3D printing of nylon insoles. And the second way that we use 3D printing to create mycelium products is by using a mycelium paste that is, or a substrate paste that is infused with mycelium. And then we use a heavily modified 3D printer to directly 3D print this into any shape we can imagine. And this method is very interesting to us because it doesn't use any plastic, and also it holds many interesting possibilities for using other composites. For example, using a flax fiber to create extra strength in the material would be super interesting to do this. And also this method is currently not under patent by any company. So this is also very interesting for us to research into. Then you might be asking yourself why we developed two methods of 3D printing with mycelium. And it is not that one is necessarily better than the other, but it is true that both will be used in a different circumstance. So we can come back to this slide in the question and answer session if we need to. But the basic gist of this is that using PLA molding to create a product is better suited to create multiple copies of the same item, while directly 3D printing this using the paste is better suited when only one copy of an item is necessary. On this slide, you can see the process flow of our product. And we can also come back to this during our question and answer session. But most importantly, you can see that we go from an essential or essentially a waste resource in the spent mushroom substrate on the left. We use some bio-based additives like spent coffee grounds or flour. And then we use digital manufacturing, so 3D modeling and 3D printing, to create a very high value mycelium product.
And we've talked a lot about the product, but you're probably curious to see what it looks like. I also have it here in my hand, but so this is the prototype of our insole. It's perfectly customized. It was based on my foot's geometry. I can just chuck it in the garden and it will degrade. So it's 100% compostable. It's never going to rot in a landfill somewhere. And it's circular because we're using the upcycled waste from our local mushroom producer. We crunched the numbers because we're really keen to make this into a real business. So if we were producing 780 pairs of foot soles in a year, we could price our pair at 150 euros, which is half of what's on the market, which they go up to 300 euros, the nylon 3D printed insoles. And most of our running costs would go towards, not towards electricity, not towards supplies, as one would think, but towards our employee salary. So quite a low energy process. We did a cost benefit analysis, and if we had 10,000 euros in startup costs, we would build up production to full in the first quarter. We would break even in 15 months, and we would make 3,000 euros profit per month. We did a basic LCA, and in a year, we would save almost 6 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions, which is huge. So we got a little bit of seed money in the nationals, and we were really happy about that. So we got some feedback also from the judges to work on the functionality. So we've been experimenting with different strains, different substrates. We've been making other biomaterials like bacterial cellulose at home. And we've been setting up relationships with other people who have worked on bioprinting.
Purva, can you please round up your presentation?
Yeah, sure. We're saving up for a tool-changing printer. So, but really what I would like to stress is that this is combining millions of years of evolutionary intelligence of mycelium with the cutting-edge technologies like 3D printing. And you can have so many possibilities, not just foot soles. You could have a prosthetic which degrades in nature after time. You could have acoustic insulating earplugs perfectly for yourself, your ears. You could have self-repairing shoes. We're really excited about what one can do. And we are the right team for it with our mix of backgrounds. And yeah, we hope you join us on this. We're very excited.
Okay, thank you very much, Purva and Robin. For everybody online, just to make sure, the team from the Netherlands also made a video. They received the same training as all the other teams, and they have a video. The video is available on our website and on our YouTube. Okay, so but the team selected or elected to fill the 10 minutes as they have done with their presentation. Thank you again. Questions coming in. Regarding the raw materials, I had the same question. You talk about, well, both the mushrooms and the mycelium, the mycelium raw material. First of all, how about availability? You mentioned that mushroom is quite abundantly available in the Netherlands, but is it enough to sustain a process, particularly when you go towards scaling it up? And how about the need for processing, the whole logistical part of preparing the feedstock? What are your thoughts, or what have you done there?
Yeah, so it seems to be quite an abundant stream for the type of product we are proposing. We did a rough calculation based on how much oyster mushroom, for example, are produced in the Netherlands, and around 4,000 tons are thrown away. And we need very little for a pair of foot soles, which we propose. And as for the transport, that would also cost very little, because the facility that we looked into where we would set up our printers, it's right next to the mushroom producer that we are collaborating with.
Okay.
Robin, do you want to add to that?
Robin?
No, I think that's a perfect answer. The waste stream is very abundant, as Purva stated, and also we need very little to create a pair of insoles. So yes.
Mm-hmm. Regarding the product, when you make the sole that you showed us and we saw it, is there how about the antimicrobial and antifungal properties of it? Even if it is biodegradable, is there any issue with these properties?
Yeah, right now this is the first prototype. I don't know if you can see this thing. We want to improve on it, and we've been exploring mushroom leather for antibacterial and anti-fungus properties, but also there's a technical university here in the Netherlands that's looking at making mycelial composites which are water resistant. We've also been looking at hydrophobic, super hydrophobic spray coatings that we could use made of bio-based materials. So we are exploring these different options, and prototyping those so that we can move forward with the best one, both in terms of cost and increasing the durability.
Yeah, there's also a couple of local companies in the Netherlands which they make coatings specially for mycelium products, so which are based on plant oils. There's also a coating which is made from a fungal pigment called Fungiforce. So it's a black fungal pigment, and that makes it also hydrophobic. So there are lots of options.
Quick question. This new method that you are presenting here to make the mycelium, you said it's not under patent, or Robin said it's by anyone. Have you considered, or are you undertaking steps to patent it?
So currently it is impossible to patent the directly 3D printing of a paste, because there is lots of prior work of people out there who have done this for art projects or other things. No one has really made a product out of this method. But this also means that no one has done this on a bit more of a serious scale, which means that in the development of this method, there will undoubtedly be processes or technologies that will be able to be under patent from our side.
Okay. While I have a quick look in the Q&A, I have another question. Let me go to the Q&A first. Christophe, has the availability and the ease of obtaining raw material for industrial applications been identified? For industrial applications, I think you partly answered that question, but can you take it anyway?
Can you elaborate what you?
Sorry?
For industrial application, that's what we said. We set up right next to the mushroom producer, right?
Or maybe he's referring to creating other products from spent mushroom substrate.
For example, yeah.
We've spoken to some people looking to heat press it, for example, into say cutlery, paper plates, and so on. I also presume that one could ferment it to produce other chemicals, but I'm not personally aware of people doing this.
Regarding this route that you're undertaking, making this for Corva, but so orthopedic, have you had contact with this market sector? Are they eager to learn, and are they eager to take off when you make this in big volumes?
Yeah, we've been collaborating a little bit with somebody who produces upcycled cork for orthopedic purposes. So it's a collaboration that could, so via them we're in contact, and we know that the shoe or the foot industry or orthopedic industry is interested to use their cork and to use bio-based alternatives. So via them, and I've been in contact as a consumer myself.
Good. While we're heading towards final time, I have a question coming in from Rob. Rob, please go ahead.
Yeah, so interesting. So great to see so many things on mycelium across the world. So I have a question about the use. So did you check how comfortable the soil is to walk on? And in that sense, maybe have engaged with companies who are developing bio-based soils and shoes like Allbirds. I think it might be very good of interest to talk to them, because they're really a front runner, I think, in developing shoes from renewable materials.
Thank you for the tip. Could you type their name maybe in the chat?
Allbirds. You can buy them online in the Netherlands even, so you can buy shoes from them. Yeah.
Thank you.
They're made from sugarcane, the soles.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to say they are comfortable. I like how they feel to walk around in. But we're also currently thinking of perhaps making a sandal instead of an insole. It is something for the future, but a bit like a Birkenstock style footbed, a thicker one. But yeah, I would love to get in touch with them, and we'll do so.
It would be good to have contact with these actors, also in the medical world. The problem that, or the challenge that you showed, there may be many other people having the same thing, and they will be interested in being helped.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I have for one last question. Where is the one I'm being pointed to? A question here. What issues do you see with scaling this up? So again, we talked about the mushroom. You said it's good, but if you really want to go, full blast, starting with a pilot plant, going on to the demo, making it really big volumes and into other market sectors. How about scaling up?
Yeah, there are a couple of challenges perhaps that could crop up if spent mushroom substrate becomes used commercially for a lot of things. It would be great from a bioeconomy perspective, but we might have to pay for it. Right now, we're getting it for free. But at the same time, there's also an advantage that the Netherlands has already so much infrastructure with creating mushrooms that you don't have to yourself start from scratch. You can you can use the same infrastructure. You don't have to yourself grow mycelium. So I think there's a flip side to it. Secondly, as we mentioned, the license for the molding method. So that's why we are really keen to perfect our 3D printing technique.
Okay, excellent. We have to stop here. We're running out of time. Thank you very much, Porva, Robin, and your colleague there for this excellent presentation. We are going to move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Final team, the LignoFun team from Ireland, from the colleges and universities in Dublin. And starting with Georgia and Minu, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hey. Ready? Good morning, everyone. We are delighted to represent Ireland today with our innovation of lignin-based flocculants for wastewater remediation. So the main problem that our innovation seeks to address is water pollution. Just under half of the wastewater in the world is released into the environment every year. And as a result of this, 60% of the water bodies in Europe are in terrible ecological condition. This is a result of eutrophication from the high levels of chemicals in rivers and lakes. You can see an example here of this in Ireland in County Cork, which is an increase in the production of algae, which is terrible for life underwater due to oxygen depletion. And this is largely caused by the industrial sector. Can anybody guess what the main industrial sector responsible for wastewater generation in the EU is? It's the dairy industry. So Europe produces a lot of dairy all around the world. And because of this, it produces a lot of wastewater every year, unfortunately. And this results in a lot of harmful sludge from the current ways that wastewater is treated. And this results in strong odors, which are not only unpleasant to smell, but they're also hazardous to human health. And as I said, they're also, the chemicals in the wastewater are very harmful for life underwater. Dairy processing is, however, a huge driver of the Irish economy. 3 to 4 litres of wastewater are generated for every litre of milk produced here. And to put that into perspective, over 8 billion litres of milk are produced every year by the Irish dairy industry. This will only increase with governmental plans in place to increase the agricultural sector with dairy production at the forefront. And because of this, wastewater sludge volumes will increase drastically within the next 20 years. And now I'll pass you on to Minu to discuss the technical aspects of our innovation.
Hi, good morning all. So as Georgia mentioned, I'll be going through the technical details of our bio-based solution. So firstly, I'll start with the current methods for the wastewater treatment. So there are several methods, and in the dairy industry, they follow chemical precipitation, which is also known as flocculation. During the process of flocculation, they use chemical agents, which is also known as flocculant, for the separation of solids and liquids. And these flocculants actually enhances the process of separation. So currently in the dairy industry, they use the flocculation, and why it is widely used is because it's low processing cost, scalable, and highly efficient method. And now they are using inorganic and organic synthetic flocculants such as ferric chloride and polyacrylamide. And after the flocculation, the sludge will be containing these highly toxic and corrosive chemicals along with the nutrients such as phosphates and nitrates. And after the sludge separation, this sludge is going for the land spreading. So this kind of system, they follow a linear process. And because of this land spreading, it ultimately affects the fertility of soil and also release of these nutrients into the natural water sources and causing problems like eutrophication that Georgia mentioned during the introduction section. So here we have to consider the metal containing sludge, and also this process is a linear process. And in this context, with the LignoFun team presents a bio-based circular green solution, and it is a circular solution. And we start from lignin. Lignin is a biopolymer which comes from trees, and we modify the lignin and we use it as a flocculant. And the sludge here after separation is now free from dangerous chemicals, and also we can valorize this sludge as phosphorus is being an important component of the fertilizer. So here we promises the circularity of our solution compared to the current existing linear processes. So in our lignofund technology, we use the modified lignin. So lignin is a biopolymer which is having a lot of reactive sites on it, and which makes the lignin more attractive for the modification. So we modified the lignin to get a high molecular weight, high charge density flocculant, and then we introduce this into the wastewater. So they remove the impurities through the electric neutralization and bridging mechanism of polymers. So we also done a preliminary experiments in our lab, starting from lignin, and then we modified the lignin to a cationic lignin-based flocculant, and we tested this with the real dairy wastewater samples. We got it from the industries, and after the flocculation, you can see the recovered water in slide here in the slide. So in order to confirm the presence, confirm the modification of our lignin, we tested the charge density measurement, that is a zeta potential, and it is positive. So from the lignin, when it comes to a modified lignin, it is positive. And also after the flocculation, the phosphate removal efficiency is 30 to 40% reduction from the initial level while using it with the modified lignin. And also you can see in the picture, the flocculation after unmodified and modified lignin, and it is clearly visible that is with the modified lignin, it is precipitating. So it is actually working, and we are so excited to go with our bio-based solution. So now I pass on to Georgia for the economic aspect of our bio-based solution.
So here you can see an overview of a cost-benefit analysis for our innovation. Current methods, the sludge from the current methods can't be recycled to its full extent. On the other hand, the dairy processing sludge from our innovation can be reused in agricultural processes such as fertilizer. Current methods also utilize chemicals, whereas our innovation uses lignin, which is an abundant natural resource which comes from trees. Current methods are also at a fixed cost of about €1.50 to €3 per kg of finished flocculant product, compared to our product, which is costed at about €3 to €5 per kg of finished flocculant product, but this cost is expected to drop with scale up. So for impact analysis, this timeline shows our estimated rollout of the lignofund innovation, with the product being brought to market at about the 4-year mark. So as you can see, we are currently at the end of the conceptual phase. And thus the main impacts that our innovation seeks to create is a bio-based flocculant that requires less chemicals and is desperately needed within the dairy processing industry in Ireland especially. To sum up, lignofund will enhance current wastewater treatment methods by replacing the chemicals in unsustainable flocculants with a bio-based circular solution. Lignofund is applicable to both agriculture and industry, and therefore, finally, has the potential to also create new jobs in the bio-based sector. We will now show you the video that we created for our innovation, just to conclude our presentation.
But here we have the Ireland, a country renowned for skillful women, such as voting, free field, and vast waters, like you see here. Unfortunately, there is an imminent threat to the health and beauty of these bodies of water. This threat is wastewater, a large portion of which is caused by industry. Wastewater has increased levels of chemicals, which are very harmful to aquatic life. One of the contributors to this wastewater in Ireland and Europe is the dairy industry. In Ireland, dairy processing contributes hugely to our economy. And there are currently governmental plans in place to increase dairy production, which will in turn release even more chemicals, resulting in more wastewater in our lakes, rivers and seas. The current methods of treating this wastewater are also sometimes toxic and corrosive, producing large amounts of sludge. Our innovation poses a sustainable solution. We have created a lignin-based flocculant. Flocculants are used to clarify wastewater, however current methods are chemical. Using a naturally abundant resource like lignin, which comes from trees, we can cut out these toxic, unsustainable chemicals. When we put the lignofund flocculants in dairy wastewater, the phosphates and nitrates are removed through chemical neutralization and the bridging mechanism of polymers. We modified the lignin to produce a high molecular weight, high charge density flocculant. The remaining sludge is free from dangerous chemicals and can be valorized, as the phosphorus in it is an essential component for fertilizer. The Lignofun innovation strives to meet 6 Sustainable Development Goals by contributing to a green, circular bioeconomy. By making the dairy wastewater treatment process more environmentally friendly, we can preserve our aquatic life, cleaner drinking water, and the coastal scenery for everyone to enjoy. We hope you are as excited as we are.
There are 3 simple changes that cover all of my recommendations.
Is that it? You completed the video? Yes? Okay. Thank you, team. You are within time. I must say that we missed the first part of your video, but it's there again. It's on our website, and people can see it. Questions from the big members. I see a question here from Christoph. Has the proposed solution already been implemented, and if so, where? We cannot hear you.
Yeah. So yes, we have actually created our Lignofun flocculant, and we have tested it with the real dairy wastewater samples that we got from the industries, and it is showing good results. And still we are working on optimization of our process, and also we are going for the patent of our entire process.
You showed this timeline saying that you are at the conceptual stage at this moment, or was that correct?
Yes, like we actually proved our concept, and we are in the TRL level of 2 to 3. So we are looking forward to do it more about it. Yeah.
Okay. Is the technology the big thing as you presented this? You're moving from a linear process to a circular bio-based system. Anybody else tried something similar? You know, with a growing agricultural sector in your country and other countries, maybe not so growing, but do you know of anyone else? Is this unique, what you're presenting?
To the best of our knowledge, and as far as we could find, there is only one other company in Ireland that produces organic flocculant using lignin. However, it does not focus on the dairy processing. There are no flocculants, organic flocculants being used in the dairy processing industry, and it is a major problem in Ireland specifically. So our unique selling point is in the dairy industry. However, there are lignin, although they are emerging, there are lignin-based flocculants in the market currently.
Yeah, and also there are different kind of lignins, different kind of modified lignins. So yeah, our aim was to try to use this lignin that now is currently mostly waste and give value to this polymer.
And also adding on to that, and Europe is currently facing a shortage of phosphates. It's actually exporting from other countries to Europe. So during this process, we have a lot of phosphates that is actually gone wasted. So if you're using the lignin-based flocculants, we can actually use it for as a fertilizer also. So that is also adding up to the market.
And is the agricultural sector your partner? Are they your friends? Are they supporting it?
Yeah, sure. The Irish agriculture sector.
Yes,
of course.
Yes.
Good. So you have contact with them already.
Yeah. We are actually in contact with the Department of Agriculture and the Marine, and also with the DPTC, the Dairy Processing Technology Center in Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question here from Gijs Arnold. Have you compared the amount of impurities that are currently being precipitated by your modified lignin compared to the current chemicals? And if so, the cost per kilo impurities removed?
Yeah, we didn't calculate the cost of the per kilo of impurity. No, we haven't calculated yet. But yeah, we have only estimate about the quantity of sludge that we recover. Yes.
Right, because you've been talking in terms of the cost per flocculant itself, and it would be interesting indeed to see what what the benefits are in terms of impurities that you are removing and preventing the soil from being polluted, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
currently we are testing the phosphate nitrate, concentration.
All right. Taking a look in the queue, if there's any else there. I see another question. No, this one we answered. How about the logistical sides of having the plants run? So you're talking about working with the dairy industry, but you need a lignin, you want to modify it, you need storage, you need to, the whole logistical part on the feedstock side, provisioning and making it ready for your process. How is it complex? Is it easily to be done and upscalable?
Yes, we can do it. Like it's not that complicated. We can actually do it, and because the modification that we do is not that complicated, and it is easy to do the modification, and it is actually giving a good result, and it is as the product and the yield is actually good. So it's easy to do. Actually, it's easy to go for the scale up as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else in the Q&A? Let me take a quick look. I see no new question coming up from the team. Nobody yet. How about funding this project? If you moving on from the conceptual stage towards pilot, towards bigger sizes and scaling up. So you are partnering with the agriculture sector, you are in contact with others. How about investments?
So we are actually PhD students, and we are currently like in the initial stages of our PhD project. So we are also working on lignin and the lignin modification, how we can valorize lignin for better uses. So we are actually working on it, and we believe we have fundings through our PhD projects for the initial stage. Yeah, and our PhD is funded by DAFM, that is Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. So yes.
When you will be out to seek for capital investors, when you scale up, do you have any ideas already on where you would start to look for? I mean, are you looking for government to fund or continue to fund? Are you looking for the agriculture sector? Are you looking for the providers of lignin? Are you looking for whichever? Any particular sector that you would be aiming for to help you grow this project?
So currently,
also in financial terms, I mean.
Currently, we are focusing more on the dairy industry because where most of the impurities are phosphates and nitrates, and the valorization of starch is more important for the dairy industry, and that we can actually promise the circularity from them. So we are currently focusing on the dairy industry and the dairy wastewater and wastewater companies. They're handling the wastewater treatment, and many of the dairy wastewater industry, dairy industries, they have a wastewater treatment plant there itself in the industries. So we are more looking forward that.
Yeah, we are in contact with many wastewater companies here in Ireland. So they provide us the samples that we are testing with our bioflocculants. So if they see that we have good results, of course, I think they are willing to pay. So
yeah, they are actually excited after our few meetings. Like we contacted some of them, and they are actually excited to know more about our solution and the impacts.
Okay, this leads me to a final question here from Samuele. Do you see your product working better at point source of wastewater, in other words, where it's generated, the industry outlet, or also could it also work well for environmental remediation, where you can attack already deteriorated and polluted water bodies, water systems?
Yes,
in other words, Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I didn't get the. Do you hear? or also for environmental remediation. So working better compared to current flocculants?
Yes, it's actually, we can use it in lakes or in the natural water body sources because lignin is a bio-based one. It is not causing any kind of harmful effects to the aquatic life or nothing. So we can actually use it in the natural sources like lakes or rivers. We can actually use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have finished the time. Thank you, team Lignofun, and we will be in touch soon. Good. Ben and team and participants, we're now ready to vote. Can you put up, Ben, again, the question that we will be posing to the big members? And at this moment, when we are going into the voting procedure, we have already asked this question to the others, and I'm going to repeat it. This voting is only to be done by big members. All representatives, each and every representative online of big members can vote. And I'm asking again all other guests, including the teams, to not vote. And big members, please look at the judging criteria again. We're looking at the following, as like I can imagine that you would look at it in the same way. Is the proposed solution innovative? How about these aspects? Is it really creative? Is it something new? Is there a uniqueness in it? Is it really addressing sustainability and circularity, improving both, of course, and also improving biodiversity? Is it combating help us combating climate change? And does it have a sustainable end of life? How about the technicality, the technology, the feasibility of it? If it can be scalable, is it easily to be scaled? How about partners to do so? The applicability, is there a need of the product? Are people out there or anyone out there waiting for this solution that is being presented by the team? And finally, the totality of this whole project. How about, can this help the teams with entrepreneurship and moving into the market? And how did the team present this whole thing? So on this basis, we're asking you to do the following. It's a very simple question. Ben, can you put up the question? Because each and every person can vote, but you can cast only one vote. And we're asking you this, taking all this into account and listening, and if you heard all the teams, please cast your vote for your favorite team, taking all these aspects into account. Which one team should be the winner? Which team of these five will be the winner of BISC-E 2022 and get all the goodies and perks and support that we're ready to offer them? So please cast your vote now. The voting is open until we close it in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Members are voting at this moment. I can see what you don't see, and it's coming in rapidly, but please, I would like you all to vote. Again, every person online in the meeting, the YouTube followers cannot vote. It's the big members who are asked to vote, and they are committed, telling us so, to vote. So we're counting on your continuing. You are seeing again the criteria for casting your vote, and I'm going to close the voting in another minute. And then we will be handing over the floor to Dirk to proceed with the keynote speaker. So we are now well into the fourth minute and the last minute. Let me take a look of the voting. Is it still being done sizably? It is. Okay. Ben, technician team, and all big members, the voting is closed. We have enough votes to now proceed. Thank you very much. I will now turn over the floor to Dirk. Dirk, it's yours.
Thank you, Nilo. Welcome, everybody. And I'm Dirk Carré, the director of the Bio-Based Industries Consortium. And first of all, I also would like, on behalf of BIC, really thank the student teams, because you are really the future of the bioeconomy, because we need good researchers in Europe developing good and new technologies. We need good innovators in Europe developing new products, new applications, and we need young entrepreneurs in Europe that are motivated to bring these products, these applications also to market. And you are really good examples of what we really need, and for that reason we are quite hopeful. While my colleagues are quoting your votes and combining it with the votes of the selection jury, it is also my pleasure to introduce our next guest speaker, Jim Phillip. I know Jim already for many years. And Jim is a microbiologist who works as a science and technology policy analyst at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, since 2011. He is specialized in industrial biotechnology, synthetic biology, biomass sustainability, and in fact the bioeconomy in general. He has also spent some 16 years as an academic researching industrial and environmental biotechnology, and he worked almost 9 years in the oil industry in the Middle East, but as an oil biotechnologist. I'm really happy that Jim accepted to give the next presentation on how to get to net zero carbon by 2050, which is a really important topic that is discussed today at several political and industrial platforms. So, Jim, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dirk. And yes, it was way back in 2011 that we met. And before I actually start, well, let me share my screen first and make sure we get that up. And I move it to the presentation mode. So it should come up, but there's often a little delay. Yeah, okay. Can you see that as a presentation mode?
Yes, perfect. Not a presentation, okay. Not yet in a presentation mode. Yes, perfect. Perfect.
Okay, it is, okay. So yeah, Dirk, some of what I'm saying today is it's about climate, and I'm reminded that just before I started in 2011, you had actually written a paper for the OECD called Industrial Biotechnology and Climate Change. And let me say, way back then, that was very much groundbreaking. And right way back then, if you looked at a newspaper, there were paper in those days, you hardly ever saw anything about climate. And now I look at the BBC and some of the British websites of newspapers, and it's not just every day, it's several articles every day on climate. So our countries, the way we work, sorry to the uninitiated, is we work in 2-year phases with 37 or 38 countries now. And we're tasked to look at something in particular. Now, we've been doing, as Dirk said, we've been working on bioeconomy since, I guess, 2009, when a landmark publication, 2009. And the country said, we have to look beyond bioeconomy, not exclusive of it, but how bioeconomy fits into the whole thing about net zero carbon by 2050, because this is now rocketing up the political agenda. So the way we work, as I say, we do workshops, we do case studies, and here are some of the caveats I'll say about this, what we've been doing over the last 2 years. There is often mixed together, and it's one of my problems about this, is we often see the term CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. Now that doesn't help, because the two areas are quite different. Because of the work we do, we are much more focused on carbon capture and utilization. One of the reasons for that is carbon capture and storage is more or less no added value, and it's expensive to pressurize CO2 and pump it underneath the ocean. But carbon capture and utilization is a value-adding strategy to this net zero thing by 2050. So look at bullet point 4. I say it twice in this presentation. We've spent an awful lot of time talking about energy policy, transport policy, electrification of vehicles, etc. And one of the things we've been struggling to get across is you have to look at a lot more sectors. Now, our sister organization, the IEA, is saying it's all sectors, all countries. At last, Dirk, that message is coming through, but it's taken an awful long time. Never underestimate the difficulty of communication. So here, in fact, is what our sister organization said in 2021. This was very, very widely used, this roadmap from the IEA to net zero. And let me, before we look at the CCU and CCS, what are the curiosities of, if you look at that bluish purple bar, this is about behavior and changing the way we act. And that's how far reaching all of this is to be. But let me go back to the bars that should interest us more. Okay, we have transport, biofuels and other renewables, but the ones for us are the brown of CCUS and industry, and the gold, if you like, of CCUS power and fuel supply. Now you see right now, those are extremely small, but on the way through to 2050, those are sectors which are only growing. And that's one of the reasons that the IEA says that CCUS overall is essential to get into these ambitions of net zero by 2050. So underpinning the big policy picture, the work we're doing now, there was a realization there's not enough biomass available in the planet to work without the problem of threatening biodiversity and food security. Again, look at the final bullet. It's unashamedly repeated. We have to get away from this fixation on energy and transportation, and it's all sectors and all countries. And it's great to see that the young folk in this competition are realizing that. So we had 16 case studies from 9 countries. And at the start of this, I said, I want this to be diverse. We are not just biotech, we're nano and we're converging technologies. And I want as many different sectors involved as possible, so we don't get a bottleneck with a lot of stuff about energy. We did get energy, but let me list the different sectors that we got case studies back from. We have agriculture, including digital agriculture, in fact, aquaculture, cement, chemistry, including petrochemistry, composting, construction, fertilizers, food, energy, plastics, offshore decommissioning, soil, waste management. So this is exactly what we were looking for. We were looking for this range, because this is not just about bio. And we stressed that right at the start, that give us the case studies which aren't just bio. But we were surprised when it came through. Look at this part. There is an awful lot of biotechnology. That still came through, and that did surprise us a little, but it surprised us nicely, in fact. But the other point about this is we are now calling these hybrid technologies, because we all know biotechnologies on their own have specific problems when we come to scale up. And one of the things we see in the future is this hybrid of a biotech with, say, a synthetic chemistry or something more similar, familiar, like distillation. So that's one of the recommendations we're making, is that governments start to fund these as hybrid technologies, because we can't afford to make mistakes. 2050 is effectively around the corner. It's 2 innovation cycles in the chemical industry, that's all. So we have to make sure that we're funding the right things. So the policy analysis, I've put investment right at the top here, and indeed this event today is about investment, but perhaps on a smaller scale, but it's investment all the same. What we're saying is that the biggest message that's going to come out of this paper is the need for investment. Now, the way this will normally work is that public investment, taxpayers' money, is used as a risk amelioration strategy to make sure that the private sector joins in. And CBE-JIU proves that very nicely. When there is a risk amelioration by public, then the private sector will join in. Now, this thing about holistic policy, this is what the government specifically, our delegates specifically asked for, is to make sure that this isn't just a list of policy actions, but we have to see that you put them together to make sure that this is looked at in the bigger picture. So some of the things that are coming through out of that is, one thing that's very common in the CBE-JIU is value chains. So that what we're saying here is, if you have a great technology and a beautiful biorefinery, then it can all go wrong because the value chain isn't secure. So the value chain, like any chain, is only as strong as the weakest player. So there's systemic business risk associated with value chains. One of the things we've never talked about before is and it's very pertinent nowadays, is the risk of unintended consequences bringing about social unrest. Now, a year ago, people would have said, you're crazy. Now, people see it on the TV. Now it's not crazy. There is great potential here for social unrest if this isn't done properly. And this issue about sustainability tunnel vision, I'll go directly onto that, in fact, as a slide. We made something similar in 2014, and I just called it then the Grand Challenges ecosystem. And what that was saying was, if you attempt to solve a problem in, say, energy security, then you can easily make a problem in another grand challenge, like soil security. So they're all interlinked, they all interact with each other, and they start to behave like ecosystems. I think this is a much more elegant way of putting it, is that, and this was framed for us before I ever saw this diagram, but it's this, that there is a great danger that governments just purely focus on emissions and don't look at this wider picture of what sustainability is all about. Now, I've put the red highlight on overconsumption. If you look at the arrows coming into overconsumption, there are a lot, and that's one of the problems for biomass, is the overconsumption of biomass will lead to problems elsewhere, and for example, in biodiversity loss. So that's why this is very elegant for us to say, governments can't do this net zero 2050 by looking at carbon emissions alone. It's a major danger. Now, this whole thing about holistic policy. What we said in bioeconomy before, this was done by a colleague of mine from Norway. We published this in 2020, and we've updated it for net zero, is the 4 arrows at the top will be very familiar to people who know anything about innovation policy. We go from feedstock through technology, industrialization, all the way to market. And a couple of messages from this diagram is that if you just present this in terms of these brand new value chains, governments are horrified. One of the things we want to do is to make sure that there's a marriage between these very specific value chain policies with generic policies, so that this doesn't look such a horror story to governments, that it actually can be integrated into the wider picture. Now, I've put these little bits in red in here for a purpose. These arrows could go anywhere. But let me start with what I mean here about everything being connected. Let's say you have a targeted, in any country or transnationally, you have targeted R&D programs and education programs, which are quite expensive, but long-term also. So you go and do that, and you've made this educated workforce. But then what happens if you say, well, if you look at bottom right there, we haven't worked in a market. So there's no tax to get this through to being a diffusion, and public procurement hasn't happened. So you have to say, right, well, there's no point doing the education, the workforce, without being able to make the market. And if you've done that and you've made the market, Well, do you really know that biomass is sustainable? Like I say, you could make these all over the place, and that's all connected, and that's part of this thing about holistic. And I will come back to the whole idea of sustainability. So carbon tax, it's used all the time, and what I'm saying in this paper is it's essential, yes, but it ain't a panacea. Now, if you look at the top 3 bars there, those constitute, when you sum them together, what we call the effective carbon rate, but that's not the point here. Look at the second bar. Round about $4 per ton is the global CO2 carbon tax just now, and we've been saying for a long time that's nothing like enough. $60, $80, $100 a ton would be what you need to do here. So look at the effect of where we are now, about $4, and the effect of keeping a carbon price floor at minimum $60, okay, or 60 euros, sorry, and the effect that would have on revenues. So the whole point is here that the carbon tax can raise the revenues that are needed for this very expensive transition. So bullet point 3 there, though, the reason we're saying it's not a panacea is you just can't use an emissions target for everything. You have to make for each one of these targets a specific policy package, and this requires ministries to work together, and that quite often doesn't happen. Ministries tend to get, in any one country, they can get into competition, and that's not what's needed. This is a whole of government effort. And the final part there, I've put in this, that if you do this far too quickly, you can court backlash. We've seen it with the Gilets jaunes. We've seen this in Kazakhstan about LPG. You can very, very quickly raise backlash from the public, especially now when they can organize around smartphones. So this has to be done with that in mind, sympathetically with that in mind. Now, this has been a hobby horse of the OECD for more than 20 years. And as Dirk said, I used to work in the oil industry in Saudi Arabia, and I had a 4-litre V6 engine in petrol, and I could fill the tank for $5 or €5. And that becomes addictive, in fact. So if you look at the whole thing about subsidies, if you want to get a new industry going, then you subsidize it till the point where it stands on its own 2 feet. Then you remove the subsidy. That's the whole idea. But look at this. This is the largest subsidy system on the planet, and it's for an industry which is more than 100 years old. Doesn't make sense, and it's very hard to control because, like I say, low, cheap petrol prices are quite addictive. There was a great big dip in 2020 due to COVID. We predicted that for 2021, and the figures aren't complete yet, but we predicted there will be this rebound, and that has also happened. So getting rid of these subsidies will produce much more revenue for governments, and it should be a no-brainer, but in fact, it's very difficult to get rid of these subsidies. Right, this is effectively about CBE-GIU and its predecessor. Europe should be very proud, CBE-GIU should be very proud that there are 14 of these flagship biorefineries in Europe now, which weren't there before now, and they wouldn't be there except for the efforts of CBE-GIU. And they are bringing about large CO2 emission savings. That's one of the points. And my message has often been, when I've talked to others about CBE-GIU, especially with my colleagues in the United States, is we need more. We need more of CBE-GIU, and we need them rapidly. That's the point, because this transition isn't going to wait. Now, that I said I would return to this whole thing about sustainability. Sorry about the size of this. But one of the things in policy we've said is that we have to prove that these bio-based products are in fact sustainable. Now, I'll simplify this. The grey diamonds here are the petrol-based equivalents of these different chemicals. And what you see is the emissions from them. And the coloured bars are the bio-based equivalents at different rates of conversion. And this also integrates the energy price, which is a really important aspect in policy. So what we see here is we've seen these kind of graphs before, but this is much more recent, and it adds things that we didn't see before. So this is really important. But in policy, this is an academic paper, of course. This doesn't happen, or it doesn't mean anything to us until this is standardized. And in fact, if you're going to have international trade, as this is all about, then we have to have international standardization. And what I've learned in my transition from scientist to policy person is that, in fact, the science and engineering can be solved, but there is huge difficulty when it comes to the policy part, because you're not then dealing just with facts and figures, you're dealing with human emotion. But this is very encouraging that this kind of work is coming out, and this is really essential for policymakers to have a look at. One of the other things we've been saying for a long time, in fact, is that bio-based production, one of the ways to get it up the political scale is to hook it all into the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, this DBTL here is the design, build, test, learn cycle of what we call the biofoundries. And that's been a missing link between production and the ideas and design. So effectively what we're saying is that the biofoundry is an automated facility, and it can be anywhere. It can be anywhere in the world, and it can be very far divorced from a manufacturing plant. And that's a hallmark of modern industry, is the separation of design from production. Now, I've also included the biological resource centers here for the very good reason there is going to be another explosion in sequencing. There's one project, the Earth Biogenome Project, that intends to sequence every known eukaryote and reveal to science 90% of the species which are right now absent, which are obscured from science. So that's the point here, is that you have all these different sectors, and it's the main one we think is number 12, responsible consumption and production, but you can easily hook them up to all of these different sustainable development goals. And like I say, the political point of this is to get it ramped up in political visibility. This is the last one of any substance, and it's just about the magnitude of what lies ahead for us and for you young people to frame how this is going to be the future. So we have to have this complete transformation of energy, but we're saying manufacturing, agriculture, construction, all of these sectors and more have to go through the same kind of transformation. And we have to do it very quickly. We have to build an enormous industry in 2 to 4 times the volume of what is currently the global oil industry, and we have to do it very soon, whereas the oil industry had a century to develop. But look at that bottom line, just 4 commodities: cement, steel, ammonia, ethylene. Full decarbonization cost, $21 trillion up to 2050. That's just 4 commodities. This is the scale of what lies ahead. Great challenges, actually. And that's the way it should be looked upon, as opportunities and challenges for the younger generation, which this event is all about. And thank you for your time. These are some of the things we've published in the past. The paper I've been talking about isn't out yet. It will be finished by the end of the year, published probably in the start of next year. And do I stop sharing my screen now, or do I leave this here?
You can stop.
Okay. 12:24, not bad.
Thanks a lot, Jim, for this very interesting presentation. If you allow us, hopefully we can share it with the participants, because I think it's very, very useful. Very
absolutely. Yeah, because I tend to have too many slides and have to go too quickly, and therefore it's good if the participants can see them later.
Okay. Maybe it's also time for questions. So if people have some questions, you can type it for those that can, or you can also raise your hand, and then I'll give you the floor. Maybe just as a start, because I know the OECD quite well, collaborated a lot with you. And I know you're making very good, at the OECD, very good studies, very good reports. I think we can communicate much better, I would say, the outcome of these activities. And certainly, if you have some reports or new studies, let us know, and we can help you to distribute it via our channels. And maybe also to give a bit of an idea to the participants, because for some of them, they don't know very well what OECD is also doing. Can you just briefly explain a bit of the ongoing studies or projects, or some studies that have finished in the area of the bioeconomy? Because I think it's very interesting for the participants to be aware of this.
Okay, I can do, well, that's the question then. All right. So we've covered an awful lot of ground. In fact, I think I have now, including the academic sector and OECD papers, I've got, I think, 150 papers on all sorts of areas of bioeconomy. So earlier in my time, Dirk, I think by about 2013, 2014, I was working on plastics and bioplastics and in policy aspects, because it's really important, as we all know. It's the big unknown in terms of waste management. We've gone through, in 2014, I wrote a book on synthetic biology with major contributions in synthetic biology and the policy implications, which are very wide and include things like genetic modification in Europe. We've gone through, actually, what this meeting is about is our delegate said, well, we've got this circular economy coming from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we've got this bioeconomy, but can you write something for us on circular bioeconomy? And that, in fact, will be taken up as a workshop in Washington, DC on the 24th and 25th of this month. So this whole thing about bioeconomy and circularity has started, was on our radar about 2019. And then we had something very interesting on value chains in the bioeconomy and sustainability of value chains and ecosystems, how you develop these ecosystems. Quite a different approach in the United States from the way it's been done by developing clusters in Europe. And we have this, you would have been involved, I think, in initially, Dirk. We have a council recommendation, which is the highest form of soft law, which is made in the OECD, and it was on the sustainability of bio-based products. And every 5 years, we are tasked with revisiting that, and I did that last year amongst the delegates to see if it was being, if those recommendations were being implemented and if the recommendation was still relevant. And every country that responded said, yes, it's been implemented, and yes, it's still relevant. And then, as I say, now we've widened this scope into other parts of different technologies, but also focusing on the net zero, which is much, much further up the political agenda than others. So we've covered an awful lot of ground in the academic side as well, actually.
Thanks a lot. I think it's very useful. And maybe just for the participants, we can send the link later on. We'll also distribute the presentation because that's a question. You can find many of these studies, these reports on the website of the OECD. So maybe we will send the link so that the participants can find this back. Indeed, very, very nice work. Maybe a last question, because what you have shown on the slides and what you also explained is really true. You know, if we really want to promote the bioeconomy as a solution, as one of the solutions to tackle climate change and to go to zero net carbon use, we need the involvement of many policies. And indeed, we see in the member states, you know, all these policies are developed in little cocoons, you know. And let's be very honest, also at European Commission level, we see a lot of policies, but it's all focused on their area: agriculture, economy, you know, innovation, technology, environment. Climate change is a lot focusing on energy, but forgetting, let's say, other products. At the OECD, you have many committees or working groups also on these different policy areas, and also with different people from the different members, member states, officials. Are you also doing, try to bring these, I would say, policy areas together at the OECD? Because that's a very good platform to do it. It's international, and you have all these, I would say, specific policy platforms.
Yeah, well, in answer to that, I'd say that we are bringing together. In fact, there's a bioeconomy workshop event in November, which is not hosted by us. It's hosted by other parts of the OECD. But the ones that are really important for me are trade and agriculture, TAD, because they have the figures on things like agricultural residues. So I've worked with those people in the past. Unfortunately, the guy I knew has retired. But in the Environment Directorate, they have done their outlook. So it's important that we work together with those guys. But the one who have failed in past, but we're now starting to get inroads, is to the heavy duty merchants in the OECD who are macroeconomics, and this whole thing about carbon tax. So we're saying, look, guys, you know, the macroeconomics doesn't do this in its own. Technology is going to be massive in solving these issues. So we have to be working together. And that's why we did that table to show, let's marry the macroeconomics with the specific bioeconomy policies. So the answer, in short, to the question is yes, we're trying to do that, but like it is in governments, we get siloed. Some cases, they turn from competitive to actually unfriendly. So, but that is a message, Dirk, that this has to be whole of governments, and it has to be seen to be working that way. Otherwise, the siloing, it loses impetus.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jim. Very nice presentation, a very good discussion, and a very good message to end this discussion. We cannot make a lot of noise to thank you, but on behalf of all the participants, I really would like to thank you for your participation, and let's keep the good collaboration also in the future. Thanks a lot.
Well,
and so I think
I love doing it anyway. It's just what I do.
Thanks a lot. And so now I think the votes have been counted, and I can give the floor to Nelo and to Rob, who will proceed now with the announcement of the winners. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dirk and Jim. I followed most of Jim's presentation as well. Pretty interesting indeed. Okay, we're ready to announce the results. Can you hear me, Ben? Everybody?
Yes, we can hear you, Nelo. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're ready to go, and without losing too much time, the only thing I can say, I had this discussion and sharing and aligning the scores of the jury with the jury chairman, Kees Hoyer, was there online with me, and we are in unanimous consent that the results are indeed what they are, and they're legal and well. Therefore, I would like to ask our chairman, Rob Bakers, to please come back on stage virtually then, and that we can proceed by announcing the winner, starting from the third, proceeding to the second, and to the winner. Rob?
Yeah, thanks for that, Nelo. And I think a compliments to all the teams. So I think you were not sandbagging. I think you're also not living in a cloud castle. I think you've let with your pitches, IDs shine, showed also, I think, good realism. And I just got the votes just a minute before from Nelo. So I think we can start with things were very close. I think I must say so. Compared to previous years, even much more closer. So this shows that you've all done a great job. But there can only be one winner, and there can only be one second place and one third place, and that's the order we will go. Right. So Ben, if you can put up the number 3 from the competition. I see a black screen. I don't know if what you see.
Now it's coming on.
Now it's coming on. All right. So what we have in the third place, congratulations to the team from Wageningen in the Netherlands on 3D mycelium. So big applause for that, and well done. There comes a prize of 1,000 euros, and your score was almost 22% of the participants who voted for your ID. So congratulations. Then moving up to the second. Close to the Netherlands, more south, Belgium. Congratulations, team. Almost 25% of the votes went to your ID of valorized carbon. Second prize to that of 2,500 euros, but more important, I think, the exposure and the ideas you shared with us to bring that ID forward. So congratulations and very well done. Well, this brings us to the final of the final. So which team goes round with the first prize? Well, that is congratulations, team in Italy. You've really done a great job. 25% of the votes, very close to what you saw the second place team. 5,000 euros, and I think beyond that also the membership of BISC. So I think fantastic results, and I really I hope you can enjoy that. So thanks, and bringing it back to Nelo.
Thank you very much, Rob. So the winner, Italy, and again, as a general comment, the scores were very close. So the scores and both by the jury and the BIC, but this result was very clear. So Italian team, Janap, you have the floor now for the first reaction. Bisrat, Peter, are you on?
Yes, we are on. We are very excited to get this opportunity, and we are really speechless with the result. And we also thank the other team members for their effort, and we are really very happy for it.
Okay. And a word from Peter.
We are so excited and really so grateful for this opportunity, and we are looking forward to finding more collaborators and also to work more closely with our advisors as advance this project to get the best out of it.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for the participants, as the ideas were so good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. I can tell you're glad, and so are we. So congratulations. And again, you will be in contact with Patricia, our admin manager, and regarding the next steps, and you will be in contact with me. I will contact you, that is, for the next steps regarding big membership and the networking opportunities that we're going to be offering you in the year ahead. Okay, so congratulations again. And not to forget both the Lithuanian team, the City Cowboys, and the Ligno Fun team from Ireland. Also to you, congratulations and big thank you for participating, putting up a good fight or a good presentation, competition. And again, as Rob said, there can only be one in the first place, one in the second, and one in the third. Having said that, we're moving towards the end of this event for today. Let me just wrap up for all of you, the teams and the big members and everybody online, what it is that we plan to do moving ahead. And I'm presenting here in one slide the next steps. For 2023 and onwards, we are going to change the system a little bit. First of all, we're going to be increasing the importance and the weight of national BISC-E programs and participation. So in other words, rather than putting a target for how many teams we would like to see in a European competition, we're going to work towards how many national competitions will be there, yielding a national winner that will proceed to the European final. And we are going, so it's a bottom-up push rather than a top-down putting a target. And at the national level, we are going to expand the competition among and with the big members, both the industry members as well as the university members, the associate members, but also with the national representative of each country, as this person is representing the country in the States Representatives Group, one of the advisory bodies of the CBE joint undertaking. So we already started this process, and it's working in some countries, but not in all. So we're going to focus heavily on this. At the European level, we are going to increase the focus both in participation and the evaluation. The first round will remain about the same as it is, where all national teams will participate, and there will be a panel of experts to judge you. And here we will be involving more big associate members, the universities, and also the scientific committee, which is one of the other advisory bodies of the CBE joint undertaking. And in the second round, we are going to have a selected group, a focused delegation from big members to make this evaluation. And that could be then, we will be building on what we've been doing so far, but we are really focusing, we ought to focus the participation and evaluation by big industry members in at this stage. So all associate members will be involved up to and into the European level, and at the final round at the European level, the industry members will be the ones casting their votes, and we will combine them with the jury, etc., and prizes will be handed out. And the other thing that we are going to expand is the package to the winners. Not only the cash prize as you have been receiving them so far, But we are also looking at having all 3 winners perform, be present at one or more of our events. And particularly, we will take on the first prize winner and 2 more. But we're looking at bringing you on stage in one of our international events. To start with, next year, BIC will be celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And this will be a nice stage, international stage, for you to be there and present your case again. And maybe at this moment, you can tell us where we stand in the meantime. We are also organizing events in the European Parliament. We have our big matchmaking event, which is where we bring industry and universities together, looking at partnerships for the call that will be open soon after that. So a number of things that we have planned, and we will be proceeding with that. The first step will be now, aside from publication through our own media, we will be interviewing the winners in and have an article in Agro and Chemie, or Agro and Chemistry magazine that we have a fine relationship with. So having said that, you are cordially invited, BIC members and everybody else, to continue to support this program and this project, because we really believe that this could be and should be the competition for students in the bio-based disciplines in Europe. Good. I would like to thank you for your participation, and I wish you all, well, maybe you're at home, if not, safe drive to back home and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank
Bye.
you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.